Okay, so we're going to continue to factor today. The reason these become a little harder, if you guys can get in courtesy mode and close your laptops if you have those open. The reason these are a little harder is because on Tuesday, if there was a number in front of x squared, we just divided by that number, and put it out front. The problem with this one today is if you divide by 13, will 25 divide by 13? No, and 2 won't either. Okay? So we've got to learn a different way to factor these. So that's what I'm going to teach you today. So the first thing you do is you multiply A and C. Okay, so A in this problem is 13, B is negative 25, and C is negative 2. So I'm going to multiply the A and the C together. So 13 times negative 2 is negative 26. So that's the first step. Multiply A and C together. All right?
That's the C, man.
I'll show you. The second step is to factor just like we did the other day. So we're going to do factors of, and the other day we did factors of the C. We're not going to do factors of the C. We're going to do factors of what we just found when we multiplied. So that's kind of our new C now. So this is factors of negative 26, but the sum still needs to be the B number, which is negative 25. So that doesn't change. The only thing that changed was the A, the factors of. So can anybody think of multiplication problems that would equal negative 26 but would add up to be negative 25?
Negative 1 times 26 and negative 1 plus 20.
Okay, will that work? Negative 1 times 26, I agree with you, is negative 26. What's negative 1 plus 26?
Negative 25.
It's 24.
Did 20 go down?
It's positive 25.
Oh, yes.
So switch the negatives.
So I need to switch those negative signs. So it needs to be positive 1 and negative 26. So that still is negative 26. And positive 1 and negative 26 is negative 25. Okay, now, at this point on Tuesday, we would have put those in parentheses, but we can't do that yet here. So the third thing that you have to do is you have to rewrite this original equation, and we're going to replace the negative 25x to 1x plus negative 26x. We're going to replace that b term with these two. Okay, that's the third thing we're going to do. So I'm going to rewrite that. 13x squared plus 1x minus 26x.
30 minus squared, and it's just
No problem. Minus 2. Does everybody understand what I did there? So these two that we found to equal negative 25, I replace the negative 25 with those two. Does that make sense, Donovan?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next thing what you're going to do is you're going to group the two together. You're going to group the first two and the last two together. And see if we can find something that they have in common. This is called factor by grouping.
You can move like 26.
Okay, let's do the first two first. What would go into 13x squared and 1x? Is there anything that they have in common? They have an x, 1x in common. Remember, it's the lowest one. No, they each have 1. This one only has 1. That one has 2. So, yeah, so each of them have a 1x. So I can divide those by x. Remember, what we divide by comes out front. And 13 divided by 1 is 13. What's x squared divided by x? X. 1x divided by x. The x's go away and there's just a 1 left. Okay? What would go into negative 26 and negative 2? Negative 26x and negative 2. Is there any? No, because this one doesn't have an x. They have to have something in common. 2. Now, you want to divide by -2 because you never want your first one to be negative. So we're going to divide both of these by -2. Some of you that are just listening and not writing, I hope that you can just remember all this. Okay, so the -2 comes out front. That's what we divided by. -26 divided by -2 is +13. Bring down the x. -2 divided by -2 is +1.
So it's equal.
Okay, now, what do you notice?
They're the same.
They're the same.
What's in parentheses is the same. And so what that means is this and that is a common factor of the first one and the second one. So our first parentheses is 13x plus 1. Our second parentheses is what's left. X minus 2. 13x plus 1, x minus 2 is the answer. We're going to do 4 of these, so if you kind of are not sure yet, we'll make sure that you understand. Again, Ryan, it would be helpful if you guys get examples down. Okay? Okay? All right, let's try another one. Okay, so step 1, A times C. A is 6, B is 13, C is 5. So we're going to do 6 times 5. So that's 30.
I got a question. Are all of the questions gonna deal with where we had to multiply A and C? Like will all of them be like that?
I think so. There might be one. I think I show it to you on example 4. There might be one where you don't have to do that. Yes, sir.
I already got it.
Okay, so what do we want factors of?
30.
We want factors of 30. Yep. So factors of 30. The sum has to be 13.
I got you, baby.
Okay, what do you got?
10 times 3.
Yep. And everything's positive, so that makes it nice. So this is the step that's different than the other day, is where we have to break up the 13y into 10y and 3y. The two factors that we just found, we're going to rewrite that equation, that top equation. And we're going to replace that 13y with the 10y and the 3y. Okay, so I've just... Because wouldn't this equal that? They're the same, so it's okay for us to rewrite that. Okay, we just had to figure out what to rewrite it as. Now group your first 2 and your last 2. So what goes into 6y squared and 10y?
Y.
Y and 2. So we want to divide by 2y. By the way, there should be a variable always that goes into your first 2, if you put it in ABC order to begin with.
So wouldn't that be 2y and then put parentheses?
Yep.
3 plus 5.
Yes.
Plus
3y plus 5, that's right. 2y goes out in front because that's what we divided by. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Y squared divided by y is y. Then 10 divided by 2 is 5. And y divided by y, there's nothing, it's a 1, but we don't have to put that. Okay, what goes into 3y and 5? Only 1. And you do need the 1, by the way. Okay, even though it's going to be the same thing, we need the 1. Because remember, we need something left at the end, so we need that 1 to remind us that there's a 1 there.
So wouldn't this be parentheses 3y plus 5 and then x what?
2y plus 1.
So mark out the 3y plus 5, and then what's left goes in the second parentheses.
2y minus 1.
2y plus 1. Right. That's the answer. Ready?
Next one's on the
Next one's all mixed up. So what's wrong with it, Caden?
the A, B, C is in order.
Yeah, and that's the reason I said I would put the ABC in order because, you know, I like to know that I'm probably going to be pulling an X out of my my first two. Okay, so what's A times C?
6x will be 6x times 6.
Yes, 6 times 6, which is 36. Okay? So my factors need to be equal to 36.
Wouldn't it equal 6? No.
Okay, but what's my sum need to be? Negative 13. My sum needs to be negative 13.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody think of something? How are we going to get a positive when we multiply but a negative when we add? Allison. Oh, she already got yours.
Change the sign.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Change.
Anybody think of it yet?
So one negative to a negative, one to a positive.
Well, a negative times a positive is not a positive.
No, negative times a negative.
A negative times a negative. And is a negative plus a negative still a negative?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, anybody think of it yet?
6.
Everybody forgets about this one multiplication problem that equals 36.
12 times
6.
Well, we know this is not going to work, right? Okay. 2 goes into it 18 times. Does that add to be negative 13?
Oh, I know.
Anybody figure?
9 times 4.
Yeah, it's 4 times, negative 4 times negative 9. So, again, don't be afraid if you can't figure it out in your head to just start going right down 1, 2, 3, 4, right, until you find it. So this is it right here. Because negative 4 plus negative 9 is negative 13.
Somebody's going to check. Natalie.
Okay, Natalie, check it out.
out.
Okay, so let's rewrite. These are going to have x's. Don't forget to put the x's on negative 4 and negative 9 here. Okay, so rewrite that as 16x squared minus 4x minus 9x plus 6.
You said 16x.
Oh yeah, 6x squared. I wrote 6 and said 16. Okay? So I've just replaced that 13 with the negative 4 and negative 9. And now I put my parentheses around it. Here and here. Okay, what goes into 6x squared and negative 4x?
2x. Negative 2x.
No, the first one's not negative, so that we only do that if the first one's negative. As long as our first one's positive, we're good. So divide by 2x. So I want the 2x to be here.
Maybe parentheses 3x minus
3x minus,
2x.
not 2x, just 2. Why is it? Because these x's go away. How come these x's don't go away?
Because one
Because
is
it's
squared.
squared.
Yeah, one of them does go away, but just the other one is left.
It's basically.
And when you
Okay.
divide by the next one, you subtract the exponent.
And wouldn't the second one be 3?
Yeah, what kind of 3? Negative 3, because that one, the first one is negative, so we need to divide by negative to get rid of it. So,
Negative 3x because 3 goes in the 6 and negative 9.
That's what we just said.
yeah, but don't divide by negative 3x. Oh, you're talking about what's left when you divide. Yeah, it's a positive 3x left, because negative divided by negative. And then 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. Okay? If you need a notes page, they're up here. Those of you that are just coming in. Okay, so what do they have in common?
3x.
3x minus 2. And what's left?
2x minus
2x minus 3.
It's actually pretty. It's not that complex.
It's not too bad. It's called factor by grouping.
It's just like one extra step.
It's like
Just-
5 extra.
Just remembering to multiply your A and C first, and then you got to split that middle term.
Well, you got 3x in the first one.
Really?
Here,
No, down there in the green. You got 3x there. Why don't you just multiply it?
because 3x minus 2 is what they had in common.
The big difference is you do that.
Now we need one.
This and this had a 3x minus 2 in common. So I brought that out.
Oh, yeah.
And then what's left is 2x minus 2.
think it's actually.
Okay, I got you.
All right, last one. Okay, so remember I told you this on Wednesday or Tuesday that we don't want that first one to be negative. So how did we deal with that the other day?
Divide by positive 1.
Not positive one.
Negative.
And you divide everything by negative 1.
Jesus.
So
X.
negative 1 comes out front.
X squared plus negative 33x. Minus negative
Okay, now, do we have to multiply A and C on this one?
No.
No, this is like the ones we were doing Tuesday. So Donovan, you were asking me, do we have to multiply all the ones on today's homework by A and C? I think this one is the only one that you don't have to. Somebody asked me that.
Oh yeah, I did at the beginning.
Okay, so now let me just say this. Everybody listen. Listen just a minute. If we were to multiply A and C on this one, what's 1 times negative 70?
Negative.
Still negative 70, so it doesn't really matter if you do.
So
You
back
know,
to
you're still going to get negative 70, right? And the sum needs to be negative 33. So you may know it.
It's like no. This is
How are we going to get a negative when we multiply? No, 2 negatives make a positive.
Negative and positive.
A negative and a positive. So think about that. Will 1 times negative 70 work?
No.
No. What about?
Oh, I know.
Okay.
35 times negative
Okay, so positive 35 times.
2. It has to be a negative 35.
Okay, why does it have to be negative 35?
Because it has to come out as a negative 33.
Yeah, 2 times negative 35. 2 plus negative 35 is negative 33. So, you know, on today's lesson we would go on and split that up. But if the coefficient in front of your x squared is already a 1, it's not necessary to split it up. You can just go ahead and write your 2 parentheses. So remember our 2 parentheses are just what those factors are. Remember that? That was from the other day. So that's a lot shorter if it's just a 1.
So that's the answer.
That's the answer. These are like the ones we did the other day. Just make sure you don't forget to drop your negative 1 in front of it. Okay? Okay. So there's only 10 questions on this homework. And it's due Monday for those of you that just walked in. If you